Hello there. So I thank you so much for coming to my channel and thank you so much for watching this tutorial. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be taking you guys through how to build a flashcard app. So kind of a little bit of a disclaimer is that we're not actually building an app that we're going to be like deploying to the App Store or to the Android App Store. It's going to be primarily on the web. And we're building it using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'd actually built an app kind of similar to this, or not similar. I built this app pretty much to practice my Korean skills because I've been trying to brush up on my just Korean language skills and whatnot. So yeah, another kind of thing as well is that when I built that, I built it using things like Bootstrap, using other animation libraries with JavaScript, and I kind of just built it using a little bit of Python actually too. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not going to be using those. I'm going to be using just simply HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this is going to be a very like beginner-oriented tutorial, just to kind of show like people who are just kind of dabbling in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, just kind of what you can build using these tools. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Boom. Okay. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create a project folder. So I'm going to go to my File Explorer here. Now I'm going to go to my root directory or my root folder. And here is just kind of where I keep my stuff. I keep my Python stuff here, PHP stuff here, Java stuff here. But kind of like my miscellaneous projects kind of keep here in VSC projects or Visual Studio Code projects. So here I'm going to create a folder called flashcard app. Boom. That should be about that. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And here I'm going to open the folder. I'm going to select the flashcard app folder. Okay. So one good thing to have as well is, never mind, you can't even see it. I guess I'll start off by first making an index.html file. So yeah. In this index.html file, I'm going to type HTML5 tab. That's going to start us off with our basic boilerplate stuff. It's going to, I'm going to kind of clean this up a little bit. Here we go here. Yeah, we have our basic meta tags, UTF-8, which kind of sets the character encoding. Then we have this viewport thing. I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's just kind of basic convention. So here the title is very important because here's what's it's going to show on our app. Lyra. Yeah, you want to join me, Lyra? All right. So one thing I also have as well is I have used something called Live Server extension. You can't quite see it right here, but I'm going to do open with Live Server. And here we can see there's nothing here, but here's our app title. Here's where the title is going to get shown. So yeah. Bye, Lyra. Yeah. Another way you can do this is you can open up your File Explorer and you can go to your file and you can just do index and it'll open it up. But here's the thing as well, is with this, Live Server is going to automatically detect changes, whereas a local file isn't. I had to refresh it every single time. That's probably why I'm going to be using Live Server. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's just a cool extension to have. You can get it over here at, like over here, here? Yeah, here. So, yeah, so let's get started on building this document. So this document is going to mainly compose of 3 main elements. So one is going to be like our kind of like title almost. So I'm going to call this hello there. And there's a main reason I like to use hello there instead of hello world.
Hello there.
Yeah, kind of corny, but whatever. Then it's going to consist of a term, and then it's going to be a definition. And I'm going to wrap these in divs. Divs are simply just containers for code. remember when I was first learning about divs, I didn't quite know what they were. I was like, what is that? What is that? But the term div is kind of, I'm guessing it's short for divide, but it's pretty much all it is. Again, it's just a container for code. So I'm going to term and then h3 definition. Boom. Now let's check this out. Boom. There we go. We have the hello there, we have term, and we have definition. So one thing I like to do as well is whenever I build things is I kind of like to put things in boxes and put borders around them. That way I can have a better idea of what's going on. So that's what we're gonna do is we're gonna add style to this. Because like we have our main elements here, like kind of our skeleton set up. Now we need to add style to it. Get rid of that. So how we're going to do that is we're going to create a CSS folder. And inside this folder, we're going to add style.css. And we're going to have to link this in here. And we do that within our document head. href stands for hyperlink reference. And we're going to reference our CSS folder and style.css. These next two kind of attributes, you don't necessarily need them, but it's still a good thing to have because they're kind of convention. Boom. As well, one thing we're also going to have to do as well is we're going to have to target these specific attributes. Again, the div is just the container, so remember that. And hello there is just like a whatever. So we're going to have to give these classes so that way we can access them within our style sheet. Title, let's give our term container a class of term, and then let's give this a class of definition. I did not want to do that. Boom. So let's do title. Let's give this a border. So you can do border left, which gives it a border on the left, or you can do border right, border top. If you do border, it's just going to give it all around. So we're going to make it solid, 5 pixels, and we'll make it black. And oh yeah, by the way, this is also how you target a class. If this were an ID, you would target it this way. But I'm just going to use classes. Boom. There we go. As you can see, by default, an H1 is a block level element. It doesn't just take up this little piece of space here. It takes up a whole entire block, which is the whole entire thing, which kind of throws a lot of people off because they think, all right, I think I just have hello there here. Why is it? They try and add style to it, but they don't realize that it takes up the whole entire block. So let's add some boxes around our term and definition as well. All right, let's do dot term border solid 5 pixels, do red, and then for our definition, let's do border solid 5 pixels. Let's make this one blue. Boom. As we can see right here, they're all block level elements. So we kind of have our basic skeleton set up. We can kind of see again what's kind of doing what kind of space is taking whatever. So let's add some actual like legit styling to this. Let's make it kind of more look like a flashcard app. So let's first start by putting these things within the center of their containers. And we're going to do that by doing text align center. I'm just going to copy and paste this to all three. Boom, there we go. Now one thing I want to do as well is these are kind of like stacked kind of closely. I want to put some space in between them. So one thing as well when it comes to these boxes is the padding is the space inside the box. It's called padding. and the space outside of it is called margin. So I'm going to add a margin top to both of these. Let's do margin. And again, just a straight up margin would put space on all sides. Let's add 100 pixels. Boom, that's looking better already. All right. So one thing as well, all right, I want to get rid of this box here, but I also kind of want to change the font here. It still looks kind of simple and plain. Adding a kind of an external font will kind of give it some more life, I guess you can say. So I'm actually going to go here. I'm going to go to Google Fonts. And I'm going to look for a font that I might think will fit nicely. Something, I don't know, kind of like cursive. See, this is nice. Lobster. Let's do this. So here, oh, what the heck? So select this style. What happened to my, there we go. And it gives you the link to pretty much add into your HTML. You're going to add that into your document, right in the link or the head. And it also gives you the style to add in your CSS rule. Let's go to style, let's go to title, font family, and let's get rid of this border like I said earlier. Boom, that looks a lot nicer. I'm gonna add a little bit more to kind of make it seem a little bit more legit. Welcome to our Flash card app. Boom, there we go. Okay, and another thing I want to do as well is this takes up a whole entire block. I don't want it to do that. I like the box around it, but I'm not a big fan of how it takes up the whole entire area. So I'm going to do this. I am going to go to the styles so that the whole entire term box, I'm going to make the width, let's do 800 pixels. Let's do the same exact thing with definition. Boom. As you can see, it made it 800 pixels, but it's not quite centered. So how we're going to do that is we're going to add a margin to the left. Or we're going to, actually, there's a simpler way to do this. We're going to do margin auto. It's going to automatically center it. Puts a equal space in between. But then, as you can see, it did some stuff with my margin top. As you can see, I'm not going to do a real quick fix with that by just adding that on the bottom. Boom, there we go. But there was one big problem with what I just did here. It looks good right now, but here's the thing. If I resize the browser, it's going to result in some issues here. So that's why doing a fixed pixel width is usually not a good idea. So there's one, it's kind of better way to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do 45%. So no matter what length my browser screen is, it's going to take up 45% of it as opposed to a fixed pixel width. So boom, 45%, and it's always going to take up 45%. There we go. That way it's going to look good on mobile screens. Oh shoot, and one thing I forgot to add was the two buttons here. As you can see, one for like check my definition and one for add definition, or next definition. So yeah, let's go to our index.html file. Let's do that as well. Let's just do one button right now, and we'll do check definition. All right, there's our button. As you can see, it looks pretty horrendous. Yeah, so let's first move it over here, and then we'll figure some stuff out over that as well. We only have one button, so right now we can just do button. We don't have to target a class. It's just going to target every button on the page. Right now there's only one. Let's do margin. I'm going to do margin auto, but as you can see right now, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work. So for a number of reasons. So let's just try margin left 45% as well. Oh my gosh, my dog. Please forgive my dog. That's why. All right. Here's the thing. This also isn't going to work for a number of reasons as well. As you can see, as I resize the browser, that's going to result in some issues. So there's one big thing that I'm going to do to fix this, is I'm actually going to use a div again. Again, containers are, again, just good thing to have in general. That's why divs are probably some of the most used HTML tags out there. And I'm going to call this class button. Look at my dog. Gosh. All right, my bad. I had to go check on my dog. All right, where did we leave off? All right, so margin left 45% is not going to work for a number of reasons. Or not number of reasons. Yada yada. Yeah, all right, so margin left. We targeted the button class. So now we're going to just do, within this, align, or text align, my bad. Center. Boom. Now let's give that a margin top as well. I'm going to do 100 pixels. Boom, there we go. And then this button, the styling of it looks pretty bad. I am going to add a background color. If I just do color, all it's going to do is just change the color of the text. It's not actually going to change. What the heck? Oh no. I know what I did wrong. I need to target the button. All right. It's going to change the color of the text. Or the color of the text, not the color of the actual button. So I'm going to do here, I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to change the background color to a light green. Let's check this out. I don't quite like that. Yeah, let's add some padding to it. That'll probably fix it. 20 pixels. Yeah, looks better. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Okay. I'm back again. So, all right, let's change this color. As I can go here. You can do different RGB values for colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in this color. If it wants to let me make it more of a lighter / darker green. Save that. Boom. I like that a lot better. And This is what I'm also going to do as well. I'm going to add a little bit of animation to it. I'm going to do that by targeting the button and do hover. So when I hover over the button, it's going to do this exact animation. Do animation by transform scale 1.1. Scale is just going to make it 1.1 times bigger as I hover over it. So animations can get really, really annoying, and they can get really, really kind of complicated really, really quickly. So another good example of an animation is just making it slide to the right. Let's do translate X 300 pixels. Boom. As you can see, it kind of just teleports, which is kind of weird. And it's not weird, it makes sense, but it's not kind of what we want. So let's do this. Let's add a transition to it by doing 5 seconds. Boom. There we go. But since we're not quite going to do that here, so I'm just going to take that out. I'm going to do scale 1.1. Boom, there we go. What else am I going to do? I also want to add another button, which is going to be my next definition. Let's do that. Boom, next. And I also kind of want to change these up as well. I like the idea of them being in a box, but I also don't. I think it just can be improved a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to round these edges a little bit. I'm going to change the color. So, and I'm also going to round the edges of these buttons as well. I'm going to do that by going to term and definition, going by the border, and adding a border radius. I'm going to give it a border radius of 15 pixels. And I'm also going to do that with these buttons as well. I also forgot to add these and make these black. Boom, let's check this out. Boom, there we go. So yeah, our basic flashcard app looks pretty solid now. It definitely can be improved, but for the most part, like this is a basic good looking version of a basic flashcard app. So you're probably thinking as well, there's no actual data within these boxes, and there's no actual, like, these buttons don't do anything. And that's where JavaScript's going to come into play. We're going to use JavaScript to populate these boxes with data, and we're also going to use JavaScript to make sure that these buttons actually do something. So yeah, we're going to go back to our file, or to our project. We're going to make a JavaScript folder. Call it JS, and within this JS folder, we're going to add app.js. And we're going to link it very similarly the way we do with our CSS folder, except it's going to be different in the fact that it's going to go at the end. The reason it goes at the end is so that way that all of these elements can load first, and then the JavaScript will take care of things. src JS app.js. Boom. So if you ever worked in Python or worked in JavaScript, a lot of times hello world is kind of written like print hello world, or it's written something like in Java, it's like system dot out dot print ln, something like that. Hello world. So yeah, and then like PHP is like PHP echo hello world. So yeah, but the way we do that, do like a print statement in JavaScript, is with console.log. As you know, I don't really like to do hello world. I like to do hello there.
Hello there.
So that's connected, but where does it actually show up here? It doesn't show up on the page, it actually shows up in the console. And the way you're going to pull that up is you're going to do inspect, right click, inspect. You're going to go to the console. Didn't quite read what I was doing. Let's figure out what we did here. So yeah. Anyways, I figured out our issue. I didn't actually put app.js within JS. So console.log, hello there. I'm gonna go back here. Boom, hello there. So yeah, how do we actually populate these terms or these boxes with data? So we're gonna do that in a number of ways, or not a number of ways, but this way. So within JavaScript, how we work with the actual web page is we use something called the document object model. Now, the document object model, there's a lot to it. I could literally take a 4-hour course on the document object model and it still wouldn't cover all of it. But overall, it's not a hard thing to use. It's an overall kind of extensive thing. But that's kind of the beauty of JavaScript. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, and how you do that is you do const variable name equals yada, or you do let variable name equals yada. How we're going to do it here is we're going to do const, because all we're doing is we're just selecting an element of the document. So we're going to do const term equals document dot query selector. Then within quotes, we're going to give, much like the CSS kind of area, we're going to do a dot, and we're going to do the class. So we're going to do dot term. Boom. And then we're also going to select the button as well. So we're going to do const next. So this is called camel casing. It's just a common convention in both Java and JavaScript. You document dot query selector dot next, which I don't think I gave next, or not next. What am I doing next? Let me check. We're going to give this a class of check. I'm also going to give this a class of next. That way we can select them later. So yeah, check button, boom. So how we actually can get our check button to actually do something is we do something called adding. We add something called an event listener. So check button dot add event listener. Click. So it's going to listen for click. It might listen for something like key up. It might listen for something called like hover, maybe like mouse out. But here we're going to do click. And then within here we're going to do a function. A function is just kind of like an action. So yeah. So within this function, we're just going to test this out. We're going to do console.log. You clicked the check button. Boom. Let's test this out. You have our console open, click this button, you click the check button. Boom. Let's add the same thing for a next button. Next button equals document dot query selector dot next button dot add. It's pretty much going to be the same deal. Probably could copy and paste this. The next button. Boom. You click the check button, you click the next button. So yeah. One thing we're going to do as well is I want to get rid of this definition button, or not button, this definition box, and then when we click the check definition, it's going to show the check or the definition. So let's do that. I'm going to do that by going into definition, and I'm going to do display none. Boom, it got rid of it. Let's go in here. And when we click the check definition button, we're going to target. Let's do this. Forgot to add this. Const definition equals the same deal. Document dot query selector dot definition. We're going to target definition. We're going to target its style, which is going to be here, and we're going to give it the display. What the heck? Style. We're going to give it a display style, kind of like we did here. Display. We're going to make its style equal block, like it did. That a little bit more readable. Boom. Check. Boom. It shows up. There we go. So, next thing is to do as well is to actually populate these things with data. And how we're going to do that, it's going to be a little bit complicated. It's not going to be that complicated, but it's just like for a beginner, it might be. So within Python, you have something called a dictionary. A dictionary is simply just key value pairs. Key value. A good example of a key value pair would be like presidents. So that equal to 1 is George Washington. You should put these in quotes, but again, this is kind of an example. Or 16 would be Abraham Lincoln. That's simply that. There's a key, there's a value. And they don't always need to be numbers either. They can be favorites. Look at this. My favorite ice cream is cookies and cream. Movie is LOTR, Lord of the Rings. Simply there's a key and there's a value. With JavaScript, it doesn't quite offer that. It's weird. So it does, but it's going to be called an object. And what kind of throws people off is the fact that it's an object, because object-oriented programming kind of just, I don't know how to explain this. Shoot, how do I explain this? So objects usually have properties. They have a key and then a value. So like your name, and you have your name, which would be your name. Or you have like job title, and then with job title you have like a job title. But usually objects also have things like methods as well, and other stuff like that as well. And that's exactly what we're creating here. We're just not using methods. Python has something like this, which is called a dictionary, which makes it more kind of like data focused. But here, again, we're just going to be using an object because it's what we're going to be doing. So, like I said, I was using my last app to learn Korean. So here I'm just going to use some Korean words. I'm going to put this on a different line to kind of make it a little bit more readable. So for my first word, I'm going to do hello. And how you say hello in Korean, let me change my Korean keyboard here, is 안녕하세요. So, an, yong, forgive me, I kind of suck at Korean typing. Ha, se, yo. Boom. We're going to separate these with commas. Let's do goodbye. Goodbye is very similar. It is 안녕히 계세요. What did I just do? What am I doing? 안녕히 Boom. And let's add one more. Let's do trying to think. I drink water. So we're gonna separate this with commas or with quotations. I drink water. It's going to be 나는 물 마셔. So let's say 나는, forgive me, 물 마셔요. Boom. I drink water. So where things get a little weird as far as JavaScript goes is within an array, I can easily just access an array's values by their index. Index is by their number. So water, fire, earth, air. So I wanted to access this first value, I would just do array 0. If I wanted to access the second value, I would just do array 1. So they do index by, oh yeah, forgot to mention also, their index, arrays are index 0, which means the first value is going to be 0, the second value is going to be 1, third value is going to be 2, third value is going to be 3, or no, fourth value is going to be 3. So with an array, you can easily access this stuff. So you can do console.log array 0. And it's going to give me water. Or I can access the second element by accessing its index. Fire. Thing is, it doesn't quite work this way with an object, which I wish it did, but it doesn't. So the way we're going to counter this is we're going to create a new variable, and we're going to call it data. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass like a function, and we're going to do object dot entries. That's not what I meant to do. Entries. So yeah, and what this is going to do is there's a built-in object, and it takes its entries and it kind of turns it into an array to the point where we can access it by index value. And so this is a function. We're gonna give it our words object. Boom. So now our words object is we can now access it by index. So let's do console.log data 0. Boom. It now printed out our first object, or our first value in our object in an array. So the first index of our array is our key. The second index is our value. Let's just say I wanted to access this as well, just the key. I would just do another index kind of thing. So I access the first one, then I want to access the first one again. Within that, so I would just do 0, 0. Boom. Let's say I wanted to access just the value. I'll do 0, 1. Boom, there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our object, or take our term area, and we're going to fill it with a random value from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a function, and we're going to call it getRandomTerm. So yeah, what we're going to do here is we're going to pretty much going to say a random term equals our, did I just delete my data? Frick. I can just do it again, it's not a big deal. Equals object dot entries. What the heck? Why is this doing that? Entries. We'll do words. All right. It's going to equal data. Here's the thing. So we're going to select one of these, but we want it to select a random one. And how we're going to do that is going to be quite complex. Not quite complex, but it's going to be like kind of a lot. So we're going to use the built-in math object, math.floor, which is going to math.floor. What that does is it rounds down. Math.ceil would round up, kind of like ceiling. Math.floor, and within, and we're going to give it it's a function. So within this, we're also going to give math.random. Boom. And we're going to multiply that by the length of our data. So we're going to do data.length. If this kind of complicates you, don't worry. It's still something that I don't quite memorize either. I kind of have to look it up every single time I do it. But just remember that we're taking our random number and we're multiplying it by the length of our data, and we're just rounding it down. So that selects a random term from here. What we're going to do is we're going to console.log random term. So this is within a function. So in order to actually get this to work, I have to call the function. So let's do that. Boom. It selects a random data, or selects random value from there. But what I want to do is I want to just select the random term. So I'm going to just do this. Select random term, 0. Boom. There we go. So now I wanted to actually select and populate this area here. And there's a number of ways to do that, but I'm going to do something kind of simple. I'm going to go into the HTML file, and every single time I want this document to load, I want it to automatically do that for me. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do body on load get random term. Oh shoot. Oh, never mind. I see what I did wrong. So I called this twice. That's why it's doing it. But here's the thing. This doesn't actually, all it does is it logs it to the console. What I want this to do is I want it to actually put HTML within here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this term here. I'm going to do term.inner HTML equals. I'm going to use something called a backtick. So the backtick key is right below the escape key. So this is called I think it's called a template literal. I'm not quite sure, to be completely honest. I have to look that up. But within here, we're going to write our HTML. And when I select this term, it's not actually changing the div. All it's doing is it's changing the stuff inside of it. This H3. So when I do get random term, I'm going to do H3. I'm going to do something called I think it's a template literal. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to insert JavaScript here by using a $sign and 2 curly braces. I'm going to put random term. Boom. So now whenever this document loads, it does the onload, and now whenever it loads, it automatically puts this within the inner HTML. Boom. There we go. Now whenever I do this, we didn't add the inner HTML here of the definition yet. And shoot, I just realized. So how we're gonna actually have to do this, we're actually gonna have to go back and we're gonna have to change this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do get random word. And instead of doing this here, I'm just gonna do that. And I'm going to change this to 0. And I'm going to do definition.innerHTML. It's going to be kind of the same thing. H3 random term H3. Boom, we do that. And now it should automatically do it for us. And it doesn't quite do it. Get random term is not defined. Oh shoot, it's because we didn't do this. All right. Get word. Oh, it should work now. Boom. There we go. Yeah, I just realized I messed that up again. Index 1. Boom. I drink water. 나는 물 마셔요. There we go. So let's do this. We also need to add. I forgot we need to add that too. So next, this actually should be really easy. Actually, never mind. I thought it was gonna be harder. We're just gonna call this get random word. That's all we're gonna do. All it does is whenever we click this next button, it just does the exact same thing. It grabs a random term and it populates the HTML with the random term. Goodbye. 안녕히 계세요. Next definition. I drink water. 나는 물 마셔요. Next definition. Goodbye. 안녕히 계세요. Yeah. So there we go. Our app pretty much functions pretty well, like a normal HTML, or not like a normal web flashcard app. So yeah. But overall, this app, we were able to build this in 28, 40, around 30, 70, 30, all about 100 lines of code. So that's pretty cool. But yeah. But one thing I will say as well about this is we used a JavaScript object, or kind of dictionary in this example, to kind of populate our data. And that's okay in this aspect because there's only 3 terms. But for larger projects, I would not recommend doing this. Let's just say you have 20 terms, 100 terms, 500 terms. It's not going to be good to populate a whole entire JavaScript file with this data. I would recommend using something like JSON, or using a database, or like a relational database. But for the courses, for like the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to get too deep into that. But yeah, but I would say congratulations, you guys just built along with me a flashcard app. So you might have been able to realize that this app itself all it did was it just ran on the computer. It doesn't actually run on the internet or anything like that. So if I were to take my phone and try and access it, it wouldn't work because it's not on a server anywhere. So I'm going to show you guys right now is how to deploy it using GitHub and using Heroku. So one thing you're obviously going to need is a GitHub account. Another thing you're obviously going to need is a Heroku account. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So here's our app. It runs locally. I'm just going to get rid of that. So here I am on, what's it called? GitHub. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a GitHub repository. Wait, what is this? Oh, shoot. GitHub has a dark mode now? Dude, that is a game changer. All right, let's do this. Yeah, so I'm going to create a new GitHub repository, and I'm going to call it flashcard app. I want to initialize it with a README. If I don't add a README, you're going to have to do this through the command line. And then one thing I really do recommend, though, is learning how to use the Git command line. For the sake of this kind of like tutorial, I'm not going to get too deep into it because it's just not very beginner friendly. But I will say that it is important to learn that eventually. So create a repository. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload my files. Flashcard app. Ooh. Boom. There we go, commit changes. There we go, it is now on GitHub. So one thing I'm going to do now is going to go to Heroku. I'm going to create a new app. I call this Flashcard app. Dang it. Alright, I'll have to call it Flashcard app Jonah Polson. Create app. So I'm going to connect this to my GitHub repository by searching for Flashcard app. I'm going to connect it here. I'm going to enable automatic deploys, and I'm just going to deploy the main branch. So this actually didn't work, and I know why it didn't work. So Heroku only runs, or it doesn't only run, but it requires a server-side language, something like PHP or something like Python. So we're actually going to fix that real quick by doing this. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it index.php. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create just a PHP file. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do location. It's index.html. So I think that's how you do it. Boom. I'm going to try and run this again. Disconnect. Let's try this again. Enable automatic deploys. Deploy branch. Boom, let's view it. Isn't working. Let's see if I can figure this out. I did this before. Oh, here we go. I just kind of messed this up. Let's edit this. Commit changes. Now let's try this. Enable automatic deploys. Deploy branch. Let's view this. Boom, there we go. 나는 물 마셔요. Next definition, goodbye. 안녕히 계세요. Next definition, hello. 안녕하세요. So yeah, we successfully built an app and now we deployed it. As you can now see, it is now deployed on the internet. And you can now use it on your mobile device and now practice, using whatever you were using, or trying to learn whatever you were learning. So I thank you so much for taking the time to build this app with me. It really was a lot of fun building, and I ask that you please just, if you ever have any questions, just don't hesitate to reach out to me as well. And please just go ahead, break this app. Break it down into little bit bite-sized pieces and study it. That's how you learn. If you ever have problems, don't be afraid to Google, and don't be afraid to just just dive deeper into the code. So yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day. 멀어지는 걸 알고 있니?